What's up, everybody? Hey, Ken Ma, Fisherman's Warehouse. One of the big questions I get asked all the time is, what are my top three confidence baits anywhere I go in the country? And where I always start off with is a square bill type of crankbait. Very versatile. I always think fish are shallow. That's an SB57, an Ozark crawl, and that's an MR6. Bunch of different patterns. And again, you can throw them anywhere from that 3 to 6 foot range. When the fish are a little bit deeper, a bait that's really versatile that I've caught fish in a foot of water, and I've caught fish down into 15 feet of water, like at Lake Shasta and Orville, is a trusty chatterbait. I throw all different brands. They carry them all. This is the Jackhammer by Height with the spunk shad on the back by Missile. This is the new Evo lead. It's got a great big bite swim on, green pumpkin. Looks like a crawdad, looks like a bluegill. And the last thing I do is a Texas rig piece of plastic. Again, the weight can be anywhere from a quarter all the way to a 2 ounce weight. I love the big Pite Yo Mama, as everybody knows. And you can get them, again, at Fisherman's Warehouse. There's 4 physical locations, Manteca, Fairfield, Sacramento, and Roseville. And you can get them online also at Fisherman's Warehouse. They're also doing a lot of great sales. So check them out. What's up, everybody? Hey, Ken Ma with Fisherman's Warehouse. I got asked about what are my top 3 baits. And, what I led off with was a square bill crankbait. And, it's just a bait that I always feel that no matter where you go, no matter what the water clarity is, there's always some fish shallow. And if the body of water has, any type of big cover, big rocks, shade, trees, logs, grass, hydrilla, things like that, I mean, you just absolutely cannot beat. It's a great search bait. I've caught big ones on it. Like I've won the Western Bass Shoot. I won $126,000, throwing that bait on the Delta. So, what I love about the bait, again, is you can cover a lot of water, catches big ones. I want to dive a little bit into rod reel line also. For me, I'm a G. Loomis fan, so I like to throw this square bill, especially around that big kind of cover, on a NRX JWR 893. And then I'm a huge fan of a Corrado M. It's a $199 workhorse of a reel. I can throw anything I want from Shimano, and I choose to use that reel on the majority of my casting. And then the last thing, but not the least, is the connection. I am a huge SUNLINE FC fan, but ever since being introduced to this crank FC, I pretty much, they make it from 8 to 16 pound tests. So now anything from 8 to 16 pound tests that I'm casting, it's got a higher abrasion resistance than the regular FC does. I'm all about this crank. Just a great line. So that's when I'm square billing. SB57 and MR6. Grab yourself some SUNLINE Crank FC, favorite rod, and a Shimano reel, and get out there and go catch some. The next thing that I talked about, which was much more versatile than the square bill, because square bill has a limitation, or any crankbait has a limitation on what depth it's going to get to. But a bladed jig, or in this case, these are 2 chatterbaits. This is a Jackhammer with the spunk shad on the back, and this is a Chatter Evo, the lead version with a kamikaze swim on the back. And this bait you can throw in a foot of water, but I've also caught them as deep as 15 feet. 13, 14, 15 feet, slow rolling it. On clear reservoirs like Shasta, Orville, Berryessa, places like that. So it's much more versatile. Yeah, you can get a crankbait that dives to 20, but I was primarily talking about shallower square bill type crankbaits. This thing, like I said, you can throw up in a foot, and you can throw out. It's a lot of work to work into that 15-foot range, but it's doable. Rod and reel for me is going to be a Shimano, like a 906 CBR IMX Pro, and I like it to throw it on a 6.2-to-1 Corrado M. I like the slower reel because a lot of times what happens to a lot of us anglers is when the fish are not biting, we tend to speed up. So having that slower reel really keeps that bait in contact with the bottom. Very critical on that. And then for the connection, there's two things I do. For if I'm going to fish the bait deeper than say 8, I tend to go to straight fluorocarbon. So 20-pound FC Sniper is my day in, day out chatter line. So I'll use that at Shasta. I'll use that at Oroville. Sometimes I'll go to 16-pound test even if I really want to get it down and slow rolling. But there's one place, sometimes at Clear Lake, but there's one place that I do the braid to fluoro combination. And the reason I do that on the Delta is, my early days, I would throw out 20-pound fluoro. I'd make a long cast as we do with the chatter. And the bait is sink, you engage your reel, you start reeling, and you get a big one to eat you. And you're leaning, everything's starting to work, but that fish is out in the grass. And what happens is you start reeling, and about a third of the way back, the fish just comes off. And I grew to learn that going to a braid main line like this PEX8. Okay, I use 50. 50 sounds like a lot, but this PEX8, because of the way it's produced, it's very, very thin. I mean, it feels like it's 20 or 30-pound braid. And then I tie a crazy Alberto knot to 20-pound fluorocarbon. So anytime I'm fishing that shallow water, heavy grass type of fishery, I really am a fan of the braid to fluorocarbon with the vibrating jig or the chatterbait. All this stuff available at Fisherman's Warehouse. Check it out. Hey, I just got done talking about these bladed jigs and how versatile they are. And, I'm kind of known for being very particular on how I like to store my stuff. Highly, highly organized. And I found that these PLANO edge boxes, and I have all kinds of different boxes. I'm not sponsored by PLANO, but this PLANO edge box, it's got a nice, latch on the front. And when you lift this, so this is the 3700 bladed jig or jig box. And if you can see, like I carry 2 of them. So this is my shad. See where it says shad or gold blade? I carry this, and they fit in here, just tremendously. So I carry this, the latch closes well, and then I actually carry 2 of them. So this is my green pumpkin crawl box. So you see how many there are in there. And so what I really love about this is that you can put these in here, and they just sit in here. I mean, they almost they won't even fall out. So, if you're looking for a gift idea, from somebody that has everything that maybe is storing their jigs and stuff just in a regular open box, check out one of these PLANO edge boxes. I think they'll really like them. So the last thing I talked about was obviously a flipping stick. It's something that's my bread and butter. Anything, Texas rig. I really like a flipping jig, but a Texas rig is a lot more versatile. The weight, you can go anything from a 1/4 ounce, all the way up to 2 ounce. But this is a standard Texas rig. It's a big bite Yo Mama, right there. And this is in peanut butter and jelly. I also like this Confusion color. It has green pumpkin, a little bit of blue in it. But the standard Texas rig, it's a stopper, it's a weight, it's a hook, it's a bait, and you can pitch it around anywhere from just regular flipping and open water all the way to, punching. So I really like that. And for me, the flipping thing, it takes on a bunch of different rods and reels for me. So the first thing I always start off with is a fluorocarbon flipping rod. I spool up a fluorocarbon flipping rod in January, and it never leaves my boat. Typically for the fluorocarbon, I always use shooter. Shooter is the premium, the highest grade fluorocarbon that SUNLINE makes, and it has the most abrasion resistance, the less stretch. So when you're doing that, what I call that impact type of fishing, throwing big swim baits, or anytime you're doing snap hook sets, this shooter is the go-to for me. So I've gone to as light as 18 pound, but typically 18, 20 up to 25, depending on what I'm fishing, is where it starts with me. And then I'll have a few different braid setups. This rod I'll use a GLX 894, and then I like the Shimano Chronarch MGL XG. It's a 150 size reel. It's easy to palm. I like the premium components of that reel. It's lighter weight. Weight is a direct nemesis of fatigue and of sensitivity, right? So I go to a higher grade reel when I'm flipping, pitching, or punching. Okay. The next one will be like a regular braid flipping rod. Okay, so I'll use the Siglon P AMZ8. It's a great, great line. SUNLINE came out with it, I think, 2 years ago. Super smooth. And then I'll throw that on a GLX JWR 895 rod. Same reel, Shimano Chronarch MGL 150. And a lot of times with that lighter weight, I'll do a lot more pitching or casting with that flipping setup. And then I'd say the biggest thing that I do the most that I really love doing is punching. And on that setup, I'm going to use a GLX 954 flipping rod. Same reel with the Shimano Chronarch MGL. And I like to use a bright colored line anytime that I'm flipping into vegetation. You look at all my reels, I'm always using a yellow colored line. This is Power Pole Max Quattro. I'll tie it up in 65 or 80. And the reason for that is anytime that you're flipping a down bait, you should always be watching your line, no matter any of these 3 lines you're throwing. But especially when you're flipping, pitching, or punching, when you throw into that mat of vegetation or that snag, that fish, when he bites you, I always tell people, you don't want that fish to bite you and let it swim 5 or 6 feet either away from you or toward you. When you do that, it really reduces your landing percentage on that presentation. So again, 7-Eleven, I use a yellow colored bright line, 65 typically to 80. And, like I said, so versatile, 1/4 ounce with a fluorocarbon, anything in between, and I can go all the way up to 2 ounce, with the big braid. All this stuff is available at Fisherman's Warehouse. Confidence colors. For me in the region that I fish, you can almost, if you were going to pick one color to throw anywhere and everywhere, it would absolutely be green pumpkin. It's a color that you can use in dark water, and you can use in clear water. So I really, really like a green pumpkin, just straight green pumpkin type of bait. The other bait that I really like a lot is black and blue. So what I've actually morphed to, because I like green pumpkin so much and I like black and blue so much, Big Bite makes a color called Confusion. So if you look here, I'll show you both sides at the same time. If you look here, on one side, it has green pumpkin that I love, and on the other side, it's got that blue. Okay, so you get the best of both worlds. You get kind of that black and blue in there, and you get the green pumpkin in there. The last thing, also, it's a variation of green pumpkin, is this green pumpkin like Texas red. Fire red's been a real big deal. I don't really like the super bright orange fire red, but that dark kind of chilly burnt red on this one side, just an amazing versatile color. Again, great green pumpkin on one side, a nice deep red on the other. Just fantastic colors. And then obviously my number one go-to, pretty much anytime, is a Yo Mama, peanut butter and jelly. It imitates crawdad on the underside. It's got that jelly on the other. It just imitates crawdad so well. So there's so many other colors out there, but if you are beginning and you're starting off and it's confusing, if you just got these 3 or 4 basic colors, you'd have probably 90% of the fishing covered. So check it out. All this stuff is available at Fisherman's Warehouse. Hey, thanks for joining me. KEN MAH, 2025 season's coming up. You can follow me at KEN MAH Promotions, IG, Facebook, or look for me on all the Fisherman's Warehouse social media channels.